Welcome to Searching the Supernatural. This episode will discuss the phenomena of electronic voice phenomena, or EVP. EVP, or electronic voice phenomena, are communications, whispers, sentences, messages that you can find on recording equipment, whether it be old-style analog recordings, video recordings on magnetic tape or digital, or audio recorders, be them analog or digital. Quite often these messages or these whispers will be interactive, and they may be commenting on something that's occurring in the environment. Now, the skeptics and scientists generally consider this to be a form of auditory pareidolia, which is to find patterns in random and unorganized signals. Now, our brain is geared to find patterns. We're hardwired to find patterns. So, it's much as if when you're looking at random clouds in the sky and you start to imagine shapes and pictures from the clouds. That's the psychological phenomena of pareidolia. Others have suggested that electronic recording equipment may be picking up random radio waves and signals, and that's another explanation. And then, of course, there's hoaxes and faking and misinterpreting something as a spirit or a ghost voice when in fact it's someone else in the environment with you, speaking or whispering, and you didn't realize that they were speaking. Now, as a paranormal investigator, I'll cut to the chase. EVP, or electronic voice phenomena, is real, but you can't prove it unless someone is there with you in a controlled situation. You cannot prove this is real to anyone else. You can share your recordings to say, hey, this is actually recorded and there's no logical reason or source for this message, this voice, or this whisper, but they have to take your word for it. You could be whispering into your own equipment and people do not know, right? They have to take your word for it. So anything where you have to take the word of someone else becomes automatically suspect. So ultimately, EVP, or electronic voice phenomena, will not be accepted unless it's something that you yourself experience in a controlled environment. Then you'll know. Then you'll know for sure, as I know for sure. These communications are unknown, from an unknown source. Now, let's get to the debunking claims. Random radio waves. Random radio waves will not interact with what's going on in the environment. If a voice is hostile, telling you to get out, these are comments directed at you on a personal level. It's not a radio signal, for sure. Now, finding patterns and random noises, yeah, that can happen when the EVP, or electronic voice phenomena recording, is very vague and fuzzy. And a lot of the vague, fuzzy, that kind of thing, yeah. You can imagine words and voices, and quite often when people on the internet share their EVP recordings and they're saying it says one thing, you'll hear it and it will say something completely different to you, because there's a subjective variable, right? They're hearing something because their brain deciphered the noise as saying one thing, and then when you hear it, your brain is interpreting and deciphering something completely different, and you'll be like, no, it doesn't say that. So yeah, there's that factor. Now, a lot of electronic voice phenomena is undeniable and fairly clear. Spirit investigators, paranormal investigators, tend to call these Class A when interpretation is not a factor, that this communication is pretty clear. Some investigators like using what they call spirit comms or frank boxes or ghost boxes. These electronic devices that alternate through different radio frequencies on a rapid basis, and it creates a static and a patchwork of random radio signals. And sometimes this patchwork will be interactive and will apparently interact or even answer questions you pose to it. But to me, that's at a different level than actual EVP. It's more dependent on us helping the EVP process through random noise, and I'm less impressed by it than actual EVP that comes from a quiet or a normal environment. So, as a paranormal investigator, I've recorded much EVP, and I'll be commenting on the EVP I'll be sharing here. Now you may say, prove it. I can't prove it because you weren't there with me, right? You have to take my word for it. But if you want to prove it to yourself, you have to bring your recording equipment to where there's supernatural or paranormal activity, and you have to record. Now, I strongly warn against active communications with the spirit world, because this can open a door or a window and can create a situation where a spirit has access to your life And quite often these spirits are not positive energy influences, and they will seek to impose chaos and negativity into your life. So you do not want to create the situation where you are bonding with the unknown from the spirit world. There's good reason why religious traditions warn against doing this, and that it doesn't even have to be Christian traditions. Other religions also warn of active communications with the spirit world. Don't do it. Don't do it. Now, when I record electronic voice phenomena, it's passive, meaning it's just normal recording in a normal room where people are not asking them direct questions, and these unknown communications will intrude into the recording that are unsolicited and are unprovoked. Now, here's my collection of EVP. On some of these EVPs, there are other investigators that go against my advice, asking direct questions, and I don't recommend that, as I said. And these other investigators were not part of my paranormal team, and they were just doing their own thing. So, on to my examples. The first EVP, I'm speaking with the investigator, and we're in a controlled environment. It's just two of us, and I'm talking about pictures that I have caught. And after I say pictures, there's a noise, right? This is a Class A EVP, it's subjective, but I believe the noise says asshole. It wasn't my friend, obviously.
More pictures. More pictures.
The next recording, I am praying for the protection of people in a haunted location. It's a prayer I am reciting, and it's in a different room, so it sounds very echoey, garbled to a degree, because it's far away. There's an unknown voice, an unknown breath, and it's reacting to the prayer, and it's reacting with discomfort, in my opinion. It's like, and the only two people present were me and a different investigator in this room where I am praying.
I ask in the name of Christ Jesus, and through his precious blood shed for us, that God's holy light shield us from any threat or danger. Lord Christ, you promised us that where two or more are gathered in your name, there you shall be also. I ask in the name of Christ Jesus, and through his precious blood shed for us, that God's holy light shield us from any threat or danger. Lord Christ, you promised us that where two or more are gathered in your name, there you shall be also.
This next recording, I was touring a rock radio station, WCCC, in Hartford, Connecticut. They have since sold the station. It turned into a religious station, and now I don't believe it's a station at all. But for a while, for decades, WCCC was a very popular rock station in Hartford, Connecticut, and they were in a small mansion in Hartford, West Hartford, called the Spencer House. And this Spencer House location had haunted activity. I and a different investigator were touring the radio station, and there were only two people on staff, and they weren't with us at the time. One of them was on the radio in a locked, soundproof booth. And while we're walking around, there's a whisper that comes into the recording that I have in my hand, mind you, that I'm actually carrying this recorder, and it says, in a very prolonged whisper, check out the portico. Now, it's neither I nor my other investigator. When I found the whisper on my recording, I was asking the other investigator, my mind is foggy, what's a portico again? And she forgot as well. You know, it ended up being the Collins porch to the mansion. Neither she nor I, it's not a term we would even normally use. So whatever whispered check out the portico was not her nor I. So in this next clip, I'm in a haunted home that may have a demonic presence, which is a negative presence in the house. And I'm talking about these spirits on a hypothetical level, and I'm talking about these things being demonic, negative, sad, and I give a chuckle as I'm trying to explain myself. And there's a different investigator in the background talking to the homeowner's wife, and he's talking, and you can hear that. But neither the homeowner's wife, me, or the other investigator make this noise that I recorded. It sounds like the cross of a hound dog and a donkey. It's kind of a, a kind of a braying bark. And this animalistic sound is not reacted to. There are no dogs in the house. There are no dogs outside the house. And it's loud. It's freaking loud on the recording, and no one reacts to it. So whatever made this sound did so on a frequency that none of us can hear. I believe it to be a demonic animal sound.
Demonic, negative, bad. Demonic, negative, bad.
This next EVP is one of the very first EVPs I ever recorded. It was at the Green Lady Cemetery in Burlington, Connecticut. And I would visit the cemetery several times a week and set up an audio recorder and start taking photographs, hoping to catch evidence of the famous Green Lady. Well, after frequent visits, I finally caught an electronic voice on my recordings. I was the only one there, so it wasn't me. And the whisper says quite clearly, "Do you love us?" And I think it's being sarcastic due to my frequent visits. Now this next clip is somewhat garbled. I believe it's English, I don't know for sure, and it's open for interpretation. So I have no idea what it's saying, but it's an obvious whispering voice. And I believe it's saying, and please comment if you disagree or if you agree with this. I need your input. I believe it's saying, "My entire house, we hate you." That's what I think it's saying. Now, quite often when I go into a home as an investigator, I'll come in with prayers and I'll suggest faith defenses to people that live in the home. I mean, I'm a very well-mannered and good-natured character. I don't even provoke spirits. I won't use provocation unless it's prayer, unless it's religious provocation. So there's actually no good reason for would-be earthbound spirits, earthbound human spirits, to hate me, right? Or to curse me out. Now, when this occurs, all I can assume is that they hate the faith and the prayers that I'm introducing. And that they hate prayer and that they hate faith. This means that they are inhuman, demonic, or on the side of inhumans and demonics. There's no other reason for that reaction. No other reason. So, yeah, the amount of animosity and hatred that I would receive in the EVP recordings, indicative of their resistance to prayer, something that I would introduce to the setting. Now, this is a handful of EVP. I mean, I have multiple, dozens upon dozens of samples of EVP through many years of investigating, to give you an idea. Number one, these are not random radio signals. They're interactive and they're reacting to me and the investigation, right? So this is not random radio signals. Number two, this is not pareidolia. This is not interpreting random noise as words. I'm sure all of you can plainly hear the sentences and the words, except for that last clip, which is very open to interpretation, but most of the clips I played are plain as day. The reaction people must be having, who don't believe me, are, well, you obviously hoaxed it. And there's no way I can prove that it's not hoaxed, unfortunately. No way I can prove it. You just have to take my word on it. More EVP and continued episodes. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing, liking, and commenting. More interesting topics to come.